The average Canadian has a university degree. My mom only did school till grade 10, and she's more financially literate than most people I know. At the end of the day, every idea in this world has been taken, so you have to learn from what everyone else is doing great and build it all together. Because someone asks you, why are you an entrepreneur? If your answer isn't, I don't think there's anything else on this planet I can do, I'm building a better future, that quality it's not in everyone. Our abilities are finite. We need to build and bring in amazing people around us to take us to the next level.
Welcome to the Generation Hustle Podcast, a show that explores the world of business, entrepreneurship, and culture, all centered around the millennial. I'm your co-host Sherison, alongside my good friend Amin, and this week we're back with another episode with an incredible entrepreneur. Episode 56 is with Taran Singh Kainth, co-founder and CEO at Flahmingo. After witnessing the financial crisis of 07-08, Taran pursued his curiosity in finance and investing to understand what happened in the markets. His ambitions increased in complexity, from managing his family RRSP at the young age of 16 to democratizing finance and investing for students and young investors with the founding of Flahmingo. Flahmingo is a native mobile application that allows you to begin investing with as little as $1. Their proprietary technology enables users to grow and maintain a diversified portfolio through the purchase and sale of fractional shares. These shares allows Flahmingo users to own as little as $1 in companies like Tesla, Alphabet, Amazon, and even Berkshire Hathaway. So we talked to Taran about his entrepreneurial journey, meeting and gathering knowledge from Tim Draper at Draper University, and the importance of financial literacy at a younger age. This was a great conversation with an ambitious leader to keep an eye on for the future, so we hope you enjoy.
Taran, thanks so much for coming on the pod. You have a fascinating story. You are an individual at a very young age who is, really into the financial markets, and you're building out a company called Flahmingo, and you also have kind of a history of kind of building out other startups. So, thanks again for coming on, and we're looking forward to this discussion today.
No, thank you for having me. I'm excited. This is a second podcast I've been on, and I must say it's already more organized than the first one. so I'm excited. I think this is a good opportunity. I think we'll have an amazing conversation. So excited.
We'd love to hear it.
Awesome. So, first thing I always like to know is kind of like what interested you into getting into the financial market? Because we see a lot of young professionals that are obviously misinformed about, their financial literacy and, how to kind of build that wealth. So how did you first get to know about, stocks, the market, and finance in general?
Yeah, so I think that many immigrants, when they come from foreign countries, we're very much in the mindset that we left from, right? So I think I can speak on my parents' behalf. They came from India, and when they came to Canada, it was a world of an opportunity, but it wasn't at the same time. They endeavored into uncharted territory for them. Dad did a master's degree, and he came here, and a master's didn't mean much when you don't speak English, right? So, early on, my sisters and I born in Montreal. So I think growing up, very interesting story for myself, being a visible minority with the turban in a pretty diverse, but at the same time, a place where thinking was a little bit different, right? So growing up, I was always beside my dad's leg, and he always had this entrepreneurial bug in him. He was always doing weird different things. He started off as a pizza delivery driver, and then a few years later opened his own pizza delivery company, and he got into trucking, opened a trucking company, and did many different things. And then at the peak of my dad's net worth, when he was doing quite well, he invested a majority of his net worth actually in the US dollar back in 07-08.
Okay.
So yeah, I saw an interesting part where the markets changed, and my exposure to the financial markets was more of hate and detriment, right? I saw the repercussions of what happened with my dad, and I started to be very curious and understand and look at what are the financial markets? Like, what happened? What changed the dynamic in my family? And then moved over to Calgary at the age of 10. And at the age of 12, I had my first exposure to the markets properly through a program called Junior Achievement. Essentially, their mandate is to create financial empowerment and literacy for younger generations. They're, I think, across North America now. But in Calgary, when I was in, I think, elementary at the time, they had this simulation trading platform where they give you fictitious $100,000 and said, hey, let's see what you guys can do. They had a few stockbrokers come in. It's just, I'm like, I know you guys. You guys are the ones who stole the money from my dad, right? Right. So it was an interesting paradox there, and I started to look at these stock tickers, and I started to look at these graphs, and I'm like, wow, okay, this is interesting. Started to look at news, started to wake up in the morning, and then by month 2 or 3, I was skipping lunch, recess, after school, evenings, just looking at all of these things as a 12-year-old, not
Yeah.
understanding much. But
Right. Right.
the,
Right.
the fact that I can own companies that I interact with every single day just had me enthused. Like, I was so ecstatic that if I watch something on Netflix, there's a direct correlation to me helping that company out. And now I can actually own a piece of that company. Like, how cool is that, right? So
Yeah.
did that place like top 3 in Alberta across a few thousand students. And that was my exposure to financial markets. And then did simulation trading for a few years. And then at the age of 16 is when I took over my dad's RRSP. He's like, dude, like, I've had bad luck for a while. Here's
Yeah.
5K.
Yeah.
Let's see what you can do. And I made a lot of mistakes, man. And that's really my exposure to the markets, was trial and error and through odd different ways. And, you talked about Flahmingo and what we're doing, and we'll get more to it towards the end of the podcast and stuff. But really, the story of Flahmingo and why we started is my own experience as a retail investor and frustrations, right? So
yeah. And I think for many instances, I say you were kind of lucky to get that exposure early on. With your dad being so entrepreneurial and in his endeavors, and obviously maybe exposing himself to the U.S. market when the whole crash happened. You got that first kind of exposure to how tough things can be when things go wrong. And then obviously you probably heard stories of like how these banks and all that kind of individuals kind of set the system up for us to kind of fail. So obviously I love hearing that kind of stuff. And it's really powerful to see how, immigrants themselves are kind of promoting themselves in a way where, you're growing. So, you said you made some big mistakes early on. So what were those kind of mistakes, and what are you finding as now you've progressed in your kind of financial acumen and career? Are the biggest mistakes young professionals are making when it comes to their finances?
the list is long, man. I think that I'm 23. This is my second company. I've started now, but I'd be lying to you to say if I'm still not making mistakes. I still do on a daily basis. Like, some of the questions that we're gonna talk about and some of the things we talk about, I started asking myself, like, snap. I preach this, but do I actually do this?
Right.
Maybe a little bit, right? But I would say a few of the ones are, one is underestimating how much we spend. I know early on, and I started using the Coho app, and this was a few years back. I love the company, great mission, vision, what the guys are doing there. But they had this budgeting tool, and it's kind of like a Mint-esque, like you can see how much you're spending. And I remember like looking at my month over month and how much I spent on food and transportation. Like, it was the bulk, right? And my parents used to say in Punjabi, they're like, baar khana khanda, right? Like, you're eating out all the time. Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I only spent like $100 a month. What do you mean? There was another zero behind that number. This was when I was like 16, right? So, I was working jobs, but all my money was going towards things that maybe weren't as important. So that's number one, budgeting and underestimating how much you spend. Second would be, planning early is important, and people really don't understand what that means. The power of compound interest. Like, it's such a cliche. Invest early, compound interest, you'll have $1 million. Like, but seriously, you will. Like, if you continually do that. And I know for me, when I started investing early, I can look at my portfolio today and I can look back and say, yeah, I've seen the effects of compound interest. So people don't start early enough, and what they'll say, well, okay, no, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it the day after. Finance is one of those things that you need to start now, right? I might be 60 and tomorrow I'll be 60 in one day. I'm one day late, and now it's like, oh, that's something that could have helped me towards whatever my goals are. I think for young professionals, like, retirement is so far out. We're worrying about, hey, how do I afford a home or go on my vacation? But hey, honestly, a cup of coffee costs still $2, right? At Tim Hortons, that's $2 additional you could be investing in yourself. And those small things over time help a lot. What else is there? People think that you need a lot of money to start investing. Sure, that was the case back in the day, but that's not the case anymore. With things like, what we're doing at Flahmingo and what other companies are doing, really all it takes is as little as $1. And then some people are like, oh, this is probably a scam. They're only asking me for $1. Hey, we're not asking you for $1. We obviously want you to invest more, but it's broken down those barriers so that you can start early. And then the last one I would say is that people don't have a rainy day fund. I personally, when I look back, I'm moving out right now from my parents' place, and I have a decent amount of savings, but now that I'm moving out, and I'm like, I need to budget this. It costs this. Like it gets expensive to even live, right?
Right.
Inflation,
Right.
all of these things. But if you start early and start doing these things over time, and they become habitual, it's not that, oh, hey, I'm losing out on $5 on a weekly basis. You just don't even notice them going out, and it's nice that way.
Yeah, and I think I resonate to that early on. To this day, I'm still paying off my car, but it's that I got out of school, got a job, kind of thing. Let's get a new car. I was lucky enough to kind of make a little bit of more sensible decision getting a Honda versus like a fancy car. But still to this day, if I bought like a used car, I probably could have invested the extra like couple $400 a month, towards like stocks or whatever it was, or savings. So like I think a lot of us get drawn into all these things, and one thing I think there's lacking is obviously education from an early standpoint. In high school, none of us are really taught this. So what would you say, like in terms of an education play field? You got exposed to that little stockbroker program and simulation. Me and Sheriston, we went to the same high school. We never got any exposure to any of that. We had a great high school teacher, Mr. Thackeray, who would always talk about the stock market. But what would you say, like, education as itself should, be building on to teach financial literacy, and why is it so important?
This is a pretty hefty question, man. And I think the main reason why we started Flahmingo is many of the questions that you asked there. The problem comes down to the average Canadian has a university degree. Like let's take that into account. The average Canadian has a university degree. That means we've done high school, we've done 4 years of education. My mom only did school till grade 10, and she's more financially literate than most people I know. So, going to that. So you've done your education, you've done all these things, and most people graduating from finance don't understand finance. And that for me is like, okay, let's kind of break that down. Okay, so you go through university and you go through high school and you have this amazing curriculum. You're learning about sciences, you're learning about mathematics and calculus and blah and blah and blah. And then it's like, real world, start working. And it's TFSs, RRSPs, interest, pay back your student loan, mortgages. I'm like, holy crap, where do I start? People feel inundated and people feel drowned because you're throwing so much all at once. It's you're getting hit by a train when you haven't even started walking yet. So I genuinely believe there's a systemic issue. And I know that personally I might not be able to fix the systemic issue, but companies like Flahmingo, our mission is to help empower Canadians. We're on a path in the next 3 years to help 1 million Canadians through financial literacy. But before Flahmingo comes out, like, what can I be doing, right?
Yeah.
I would say you need to find mediums that are comfortable for you. Mm-hmm. TikTok and YouTube are massive. A lot of our competitors are looking there. TikTok is actually the second most place where people are going to learn about finance. Yeah. The FinTalk, crypto, some of these hashtags have over 3 billion views. Like, that's a B at the end, right? So if you find people on TikTok that you like, follow them. We're really fortunate. We have Austin Hankwitz, who's one of our advisors and investors in Flahmingo. He has over 500,000 people on TikTok. He's connected with people like Humphrey Talks, Daniel Ellis. Like, these guys are really breaking down finance. And it's not someone in a suit that has a tie on. It's someone like us that's walking, talking, that breaks down complex topics that are more difficult. So find those mediums. There's amazing people and resources on TikTok. Another investor for us, Zach Hartley, he's on YouTube. He's trying to break down more longer form content. So find people on YouTube that you resonate with. And Zach and Austin are just two people. For me, another great resource, and I love these guys, is The Peak. They're a Toronto-based company. They're kind of like the morning brew, Robinhood snacks.
Right.
They do an amazing job breaking down what you should know about the markets, Canada, financial news on a daily basis. Read them. Investopedia is a great way to start. I would say, aside from all of this, the only way you're actually going to learn is by trying. And that's how I learned. And great example is, as a kid, and I think it's a very cliche example, your mom tells you, hey, son, don't put your hand on the stove. You're like, okay, mom. By the third time, you're like, I want to put my hand on the
Yeah,
stove.
yeah,
Put your hand on the stove. Damn, you burned your hand. But you at least learned that. Now you're not going to do it again.
right,
That's the
right.
same thing with finance. You need to make your own mistakes. You need to have your own lived experiences, and you will learn from that. You can go outside and seek external validation and motivation, but if you don't have that internally, it's never going to happen.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And so you mentioned a couple like, good investors and stuff like that, but we also know the other side of TikTok and YouTube where they have a lot of, hype surrounding certain stocks. Let's just say they're stonks, right? The GameStops, the AMC and stuff like that. So, which can influence especially young minds to make poor decisions. And we've all seen those like options trade go from like 100K to zero and all that kind of stuff. So like, what's your framework and philosophy when it comes to, investing in a company? There's technical analysis and fundamentals, but like beyond that, is there like other things that kind of feed into your investment philosophy?
Yeah, 100%. Great question. So I think it kind of goes back to the roots of why I started investing. Buy what you know. I shop at Amazon. I watch Netflix. I'm filling gas every day, and I eat food. Those are all companies. Why not buy into those companies, right? For me, it's the Peter Lynch style of investing, dollar cost averaging, investing in companies that you know and believe in, and investing in them over time, and getting different dollar values that you come in at. So if there's 5, 6, 10 companies that I know and I love, I will invest in those companies because I use them. I can actually see what they're doing and I can understand. If I look at their balance sheets and financial statements, I can understand how those things work. But for a lot of people, it's, oh, what are financial statements, all that. Okay, let's cut that out. Let's cut all that BS out. The simple things is, hey, where are you interacting? What are some brands you care about? And invest in those brands. That's number one. Again, I will put a quick disclaimer out there. This is not financial advice. I am just giving my perspective on things, and please do your own research and go out there and look at what works for you. But another example for me would be my co-founder is crazy in crypto, and he's been crazy in crypto before all of the hype. Like he's been in Bitcoin and crypto markets since 2014. His last company he started was in the blockchain space. He created a one-to-one token for the hyperinflation in Venezuela. Great company, great stuff they're doing. If you ask me, hey, Taran, tell me the ins and outs of how blockchain work and explain to us how artificial intelligence and machine learning and how these things will affect every single day. I can give you my top line BS answer, but if you actually have an expert that's sitting in front of me, they're going to be like, he doesesn't know what he's talking about. Invest in what you know, but you should get exposure and try different things. Right now, I do have some exposure in the crypto markets. I want to touch NFTs, but I don't fully understand how they work. Dapper Labs just raised another massive round. Amazing company from Vancouver, but I still have to take some time to learn that. So invest in what you know, and in the end of the day, you need to diversify. And I think that diversification sometimes gets a little bit complicated, right? Some people will be like 10 companies, 20 companies, 18 countries, 14 markets, and I'm like, there is no silver bullet, right? You just need to invest enough and have enough exposure in different companies. And for me, one of the examples I love is Chris Sacca. If you've ever heard the podcast, the Startup Podcast, the first episode, he's talking about he's repitching the guys that are pitching him, right? And he talks about how he was invested into Twitter. And he was working at Google at the time, and he believed in Twitter for some reason, didn't know why. He had an inkling, so he wrote them their first check, or one of their first checks. And then they were going and raising more capital, and the founders wanted his help, so they went and started to ask him, hey, who else do you know? He started to get greedy and said, wow, why are you asking me who else I know? Well, I'm going to put more money. They thought he was some rich engineer at Google. He didn't have crazy amounts, so he piled more and more cash. He inherently believed in that company. That's the other side of the coin is now he's a billionaire, right? Things sometimes happen like that. If you have an inkling and you really believe in a company, invest in it. But don't put all your eggs in one basket. It's a classic saying. Invest across different sectors, different asset classes in different countries. And I think over time, you'll understand what works for you.
For sure. Yeah. I think you have a great philosophy and how you kind of came to these conclusions and kind of like your outlook on the markets and kind of how they're working and how you can kind of use it to your advantage. And so that's kind of why like we want to pivot into where you are today with Flahmingo, obviously. And so you speak on kind of your experience, obviously with your dad, like your family and everything that you went through, to kind of show how you learned that, this is something that you need to pay attention to. But you touch on a couple of things there in terms of schooling and education. Like a lot of people are educated, but we don't know about finance. And, we can get into the rabbit hole of why the system is set up that way. But it's rare to find people, I guess to say, that are looking to encourage and educate people on financial freedom to this extent. So can you talk to kind of what inspired you to want to teach others of how they can be more financially free and just more knowledgeable of how they can kind of set themselves up for success?
Sure, sure. I'm gonna give a quick shout out, a quick plug to the guys at Collapsed or Kyle Dule. You guys can search him up on TikTok. Kyle started making TikTok videos and trying to just tell people about finance. I saw this guy on TikTok. I'm like, he's another brown dude on TikTok. Awesome. I haven't seen anyone else like that. I started posting randomly in January about just random financial topics. You guys can search up Ask Flahmingo. You'll see that now there's an evolution happening. We have a proper marketing team working the videos, but before it was just me on my phone yelling, and I'm like, snap, this looks ugly, right? Yeah. And I started to see what were some of the experiences and knowledge that I had, and how can I give that to other people? I think TikTok's a phenomenal medium, but in regards to helping people feel inspired, for me, Flahmingo is my own lived experiences, looking at the gaps that I saw in the investment industry. Not to throw out shade to other apps, but I use Questrade for the last 8 years. If you've used Questrade has been incorporated since the early 2000s. They've had 21 years to build a great app. Flahmingo's only been there for 18 months. We're a very well capitalized company. Now they're releasing a new investment app. I ask myself, why couldn't you do this 8 to 10 years ago when I just started to invest, right? So I think it's looking at white space and looking at opportunity. And that's why we said, hey, if others aren't going to do it, and if we can't find a solution elsewhere, let's build our own solution. So I know, I'll confidently say, if no one uses Flahmingo, at least I'm a diehard fan that knows some of the problems that I had there. And I think it's important for us to know that we are building a company that's customer centric. We are going after the younger generation that's a millennial or Gen Z, and that's our beachhead market. A question that we get often is, well, you have crazy competition out there with the banks and all of these guys and so many incumbents coming out. My thing there is, hey, these guys have done a phenomenal job starting out where we should be going. Those guys are now in their late ages, right? When Wealth Orgy started 8 years ago, they were going after target demographic and solving a problem that they saw. The problem has evolved, right? No one would have seen what's happening with COVID. We are the people suffering from what's happening in this industry. So we are the ones that are creating an app to solve those problems. So really, man, I think the inspiration towards helping others comes inherently looking around. If my sister doesn't understand what a TFSA is, and she's asking me, hey, I work at Scotiabank and I have a TFSA and I put in money and it's not growing. And I'm like, oh Lord, a TFSA is not a bucket where it'll just start growing, right? Those are simple things that we should be helping other people around with. And for me, it's like with this company, if we can help 1 million Canadians, we've done something right. Anything less than that, no, my job isn't done.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a great outlook, man. And you're very down to earth about your purpose behind this too. And I think that's going to funnel into how you're running your business. And so let's get right into that, right? I think fractional ownership is something that's kind of on the rise in terms of people being more aware of it. So for our listeners and our viewers, can you kind of explain what Flahmingo is doing with fractional ownership and how your fractional share model works? Because obviously we need to understand what it is first and how people can use that to their advantage.
Sure. So let me maybe start off with giving some context of what is Flahmingo in case, we haven't covered that much. So Flahmingo is a digital investment app that allows Canadians to begin investing for as little as $1. We support something called commission-free fractional investing. So commission-free, you don't pay on commissions, and fractional investing. Let's break that part down. Fractional ownership isn't something that's new. We've had fractional ownership in timeshares for real estate companies like Picasso are doing cool things in that space. But for the stock market, when you traditionally look at it, it's hard to afford companies that are expensive. Now, let me use an example. My co-founder was looking at, hey, where should I be investing? I said, hey, man, let's look at your last 3 months transactions and tell me the company that you have most. He's like, okay, twice Amazon here, Amazon here, Amazon here, Amazon here. I'm like, so do you like Amazon? He's like, I love Amazon. I'm like, okay, then go invest into Amazon. But he's like, well, I don't have 4,300 Canadian dollars to invest into Amazon. And that's where fractional shares come in. You can get exposure into companies you know and love for as little as $1. At Flahmingo, we support over 2,000 equities in the US markets where we allow you to own companies that you're interacting with every single day. Now, an Amazon share costs, 3,500 or 4,300 US, 4,300 CAD. With Flahmingo, I can own, I can put $10 into Amazon and own 10 divided by 4,300, whatever that percentage looks like. So that's how fractional shares work, is we pretty much allow you to own a fraction of some of the companies that you know and love. And we support over 2,000 equities to start off.
I think that's a great model and a great way for people to kind of just get their foot in the door at least. And like you mentioned, to help those people. Obviously, there's a lot of companies that we can't just kind of hop into, and this is kind of going to give them that leeway to get in there.
Yeah. And then I think, a number of our listeners would probably want to know, there's that whale in the room where Wealthsimple exists, right? They've kind of dominated the market for, you said, like, I think they've been in inception for 8-9 years, whatever it may be. And so, you guys, they've recently got into fractional shares, but just a few equities, specifically tech stocks. And so, how are you guys setting yourself apart from that team over there? And, why should someone invest in Flahmingo versus, the other app?
Sure. I will preface with Michael Ketchen and the team at Wealthsimple has done a great job.
Yeah.
We see them as competition, but really they were the pioneers that came into this space and really brought the baton forward and started to say, hey, we need to do a better job. I feel like there's a lot more work that's required, and that's why we started Flahmingo, is to take that work and now take it on to the next echelon. So with Flahmingo, really the differentiating factors that make our app different is, number one, is Flahmingo Central. We are focusing on financial literacy and focusing on helping people learn about the stock market. I struggle to give you guys tangible resources where you can learn the A to Z's of the stock market, because there really isn't anything that's consolidated other than Investopedia.
Right.
I'm not sure if you guys want to, read textbook style for hours. They did a great job back in the early 2000s, but with Flahmingo Central, what we're doing is bite-sized video content integrated into the app where you can learn the A to Z's of the stock market. On TikTok, you can scroll through, but you can't actually find resources or videos that help you learn. With Flahmingo, the long-term goal is on Flahmingo Central, you can watch and learn anything and everything about the stock market, read articles or even listen to them, and over time, own points towards getting fractional shares. And we're going to also make it like a mix of a Duolingo where, hey, you haven't learned about finance today, spend 5 minutes and ask you.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the long-term vision, is really focusing on the education. We strongly believe if we can empower our customers to feel financially empowered, they're going to use our application more. But that's just kind of starting off. What else makes Flahmingo different? We use a unique model called pies and slices. And to start off before, we just thought it's like, oh, okay, maybe this is a cool way to start allowing people to think about investing. But it's actually evolved into a portfolio theory and something a lot bigger. Pretty much using this pies and slices model, users are able to add over 100 different securities or companies into a pie. A pie is your portfolio. You can have multiple portfolios that you segment. So I can have one pie for tech, one pie for ESGs, one pie for long-term investments. But let's use a simple example. I want one pie with 3 different companies that I love. Let's say Amazon, Facebook, and Tesla. The next thing I do is I set an allocation to say I want to put a third here, a third, and that's 100% of your portfolio, your pie. And then from there, we have 2 powerful automation strategies. One is called scheduled deposits, and the second is called automatic roundups. So with scheduled deposits on a weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly basis, Flahmingo pulls out funds out of a user's account and invests it proportion to securities in your pie. I want to save $1,000 a month. It's a big amount, but let's just use it. And then Flahmingo, what we'll do is we'll take those $1,000, and now let's say I want to split it. 500 I want it to go as cash. 500 I want to invest into my tech pie. Flahmingo will take that, and a third will go into the companies. And a company like Amazon or Tesla, which is expensive, usually I can't buy that without fractional shares. Now you can through Flahmingo. So So that's another thing that makes us different. And I think another cool, really big facet is we think social investing is the future. We strongly think that building communities off that is going to be amazing. Flahmingo is the first application in Canada that allows companies like Tesla, Lemonade, Coinbase to directly interact with their shareholders on the Flahmingo app. So what does that mean? Let me break that down. So Tesla, 24 months ago was predominantly owned by large hedge funds or sovereign funds, or larger institutions. Now, though, with fractional shares and so many new entrants and people coming into the stock market, Tesla has millions of shareholders. Now, how does Elon and management figure out what's important to our shareholders today? Now they can through the Flahmingo app. We have a Reddit-based system where people can upvote and downvote questions before an event. So on Battery Day, Elon and management answer 7 questions through a similar application where the community actually upvoted questions to ask management. So they can be like, hey, Elon, is Tesla going to power the vehicles on Mars with SpaceX? I don't know. And let's say 100,000 people in the community like that question. They can upvote that to the Flahmingo app, and management may answer these questions. And then the reciprocal around. Management and Tesla can actually throw, hey, what do you think about XYZ? It's just a nice way for you to feel like an owner, because in the end of the day, stock ownership is you own a piece of a company. Even a fractional owner can participate. Another cool thing about Flahmingo is we do the entire proxy voting system, all of the 9 yards through the Flahmingo app through 3 clicks. So even if you own 1/10,000th of a stock, you get to vote on those. So I think in totality, Flahmingo, what it is we're trying to build the most intuitive financial app out there, really building it from the ground up and having education being the main differentiator, and everything around is just cool things that we believe will make a better investment app.
Yeah. And I love how you're kind of making it so, it's full cycle when it comes to the app that you're making. And so it's just not like, hey, invest and, kind of just do that, but, invest, learn, and kind of communicate as a whole. So I think it's really important, as those 3 aspects are really important with investing. And, that being said, that's obviously also led you to kind of close a pre-seed round, which congratulations on that. So that must be really exciting. So, tell us, what's next for the company as it comes to, the funding that you've gotten. You obviously probably want to hire more individuals to kind of scale the team, but beyond that, what's next?
Yeah, so we actually closed $1.88 million. So it'll be one of the largest pre-seed rounds here in Alberta. So really proud of our team and our investors and people that really believed in us. It's definitely not an easy feat to raise capital. And we've been able to get through that hump. So, just a shout out to all of the people that really helped us get to where we are, and all of our investors and the team that got us where we are today. The next few months there's a lot going on. With this additional capital that we've raised, we're gearing up to do our launch of our application in early 2021. Early 2022, we'll be doing a commercial launch across Canada. So we're gearing up right now to work out the kinks throughout the application, making sure that it's a great experience when users come onto the app. But we're also hiring. We started off in Feb, we were 2, and we'll be 30 people by the end of this year. So we've grown quite a lot. We have teams distributed across 3 different countries, 3 different continents. We're really focusing on, trying to build as much capacity here in Canada to start off, but we'll be hiring for a myriad of positions. So if you're looking to work at a company that's really building the next evolution of the fintech industry, starting off with investments, please reach out to me on LinkedIn or someone from Flahmingo. We're going to be looking to hire multiple roles. We'll be raising a seed round come Q2 of 2022, and then we're just going to be full steam ahead. So anyone and everyone that is looking for a better investment app, and you feel the frustration of a millennial Gen Z, check out Flahmingo. We're currently in waitlist right now. Refer your friends and family. Get $5 for every person that you refer once the live app goes live. And in the end of the day, if Flahmingo isn't for you, no worries. Just start. Like, seriously. Yeah. For anyone that's hesitant about investing, I'm not using this podcast as a plug to, hey, learn more about Flahmingo. I know what we're doing is amazing, but for anyone that's doubting themselves, doubting that they should start investing, feel confident in your abilities. Everyone is so unique and amazing. You just need to start. Take the first step. they say you miss 100% the shots you don't take,
Yeah.
99% is showing up. All these cliche quotes, they actually mean something, right? And in investing, if you start today, 10 years from now, you're going to be like, I'm really happy I started. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. No, that's important, and we'll definitely and the plug's cool. We love it anyway, so it's fine. That's why we're here to promote where the whole community, whatever the aspect is. So happy to kind of support you there, and yeah, make sure you send us a link, and we'll share it within our network to help you guys grow as well.
amazing. Definitely will do.
One question I had, based on some of the things that you were talking about there, is obviously you're very excited about teaching people. You're very excited about kind of opening these doors to your community. It seems like you have like a whole streamlined process to how you want to engage the community, and also how you want the app designed to facilitate that. So can you kind of speak to like your experience through designing this app and kind of designing a community and like managing the engagement around that, like the importance around that, and how this is going to help you, obviously with Flahmingo as well?
For sure. Great question. So if you ask my team, they're very happy about our rebrand. I am not very happy about our rebrand. So, design is something that's very controversial. Everyone's going to have a different opinion about it. Certain colors that I like, my team might not like. So in the
Yeah.
end of the day, it's a really interesting part because initially when we started the company, it was two of us, but now we have multiple people that are helping us get to where we need to go. And we're not just building an app for two of us. We're building an app not just for Canada, but we want to go global with this. So we need to make sure that we have the lived experiences of different individuals that are helping us understand what are some of the deficiencies in our thinking, or bringing up other new ideas. So when it comes down to how we think about the app, it's testing what else is out there. Our team has tested over 50 different apps globally. We actually have accounts of, we probably shouldn't, but apps
Yeah.
in the UK, the US, some in Germany, Australia. We've been able to find people that have SIN numbers and stuff in those places, and looked at what are they doing, right? You learn from the best, right? In the end of the day, every idea in this world has been taken, so you have to learn from what everyone else is doing great and build it all together. So we've taken a customer first approach and looked at, hey, what makes investing cool? And it comes down to the traditional is RBC, TD, invest.
Yeah.
Invest for your future,
Yeah.
or you're not going to be happy. Okay, listen, that we already know. That doesn't help me and start investing. But let's use popping colors. Let's use a bird and spell the name flamingo differently with an H, so that people are curious and they start to have a spark in their head. So everything that we've done, even with the UI of the app, is taking those facets in place, having an amazing onboarding experience, and making things very simple and intuitive. So I'm not sure if that answered your app. I went in, your question. I went in a few circles there, but hopefully that did.
No, that gave a really good insight. Like, obviously, it's just about understanding how you're kind of setting that up to success. And so I think you covered that there. What I want to understand is like, what kind of challenges have you had during this journey? Obviously, you've learned a lot through this whole process, whether that's
Sure.
design, whether that's building the community, whether that's just like building out this company. What has been like the most challenging part of this journey, and like how are you learning to kind of actively address those as they come up?
Great question. I think the challenges isn't more so with the company, but it's more personal, right? I think starting a startup is not for everyone. I spent time down in Silicon Valley with my last startup at Draper University, and it was definitely an interesting experience. I won't go too much into it, but I remember meeting Tim Draper, and one of the things he said was, if you're an entrepreneur and someone asks you why are you an entrepreneur, and if your answer isn't, I don't think there's anything else on this planet I can do, that's why I'm an entrepreneur. I'm building a better future. That that inherent, that quality it's not in everyone, right? So to start off, it's hard to build a company. There's so many facets, and we're in a highly regulated
Yeah.
environment. Initially, I'm not a lawyer, but I read thousands of pages of national instruments to understand what's the regulatory landscape look like. So if there's any lawyers on the podcast, I've read NI 31103, 45106, the Income Tax Act, bunch of things, and I had to gear myself. But now we're in a different phase of the company. We have to evolve ourselves as founders and understand that our abilities are finite. We need to build and bring in amazing people around us to take us to the next level. So personally, one of the things I'm really challenged with today is trusting my team. I love them. I've hired them for a reason, but sometimes giving something away and saying, hey, you focus on marketing, and not micromanaging them and not going in and putting in my opinion. That's been a hard challenge for me, because it started off as our baby, but now it's everyone's baby. And it's you think about it, if you have a child and you give your baby away for the weekend and the baby comes back and you're like, oh, why are you happier? You're gonna be like, what just happened there? You're gonna feel a sense of like, but for me, the important part is understanding that if we want to get to where we need to go, we need to entrust these amazing people, give them the tools, and let them succeed. And so I'm slowly migrating from being in execution, and now managing. So that change has been big for me. And I would say the other one would be finding balance. And I think that people say like, Zen, balance, all of these things. But honestly, with the startup, like, burnout is a real thing. I faced it. My team has faced it. And I've had some amazing people advising us that helped us understand that, it's a real thing. So I took my first vacation in 6 months when I went to Kelowna for the weekend for 3 days. I took Friday, Saturday, Sunday off, and that was my vacation, right? So even then I was still working, but finding a healthy balance between the things around you that are important. Like, work can't be everything. And so now it's like, turning off and, saying, well, this is the time I'm going to be doing other things. Like, I have ADHD, I have insomnia, I have a bunch of things. And at night, I'm just thinking about all the things, right? Like, oh, we need to do this. We need to do this. It's like, Taran, chill, go to bed. You can worry about it in the morning, right? So I think it's finding a healthy balance and just really believing the people around you and just letting them execute. And you just need to help them do what they need.
Yeah, and I think that philosophy at such an early age is really powerful. So kudos to you, because a lot of entrepreneurs are usually reluctant to give away those certain facets that they're maybe have some expertise in. Trust me, I've been in the startup environment like 6 years, and I've seen CEOs and other senior level individuals not giving away and trusting their team, and it's only resulted in bad things afterwards. So, good on you to kind of have that philosophy. It's only going to help you kind of scale and grow.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, I think this is going to be great. This kind of wraps up like the bulk of the content of where we want to understand about Flahmingo. One thing we like to do to all of our podcasts is we just want to understand more about you, and we're going to do a quick lightning round where we kind of just shoot some quick questions at you, and you have like a couple seconds to answer the first thing that comes to mind.
Cool. Let's try this out.
Awesome. So first off, maybe a bit more general question. Can you tell us maybe your favorite book or movie of all time?
Ooh, okay, favorite book of all time. Fablehaven. It's actually a kids series that I still love to date. If you're asking me more business and management, Hard Thing About Hard Things and Elon's biography is amazing. Favorite movie, Shawshank Redemption, hands down.
Okay, love it. This is not going to be investment advice. Obviously, that's for our listeners. But what is one stock that you recently purchased? Maybe a company that you believe in?
Aritzia. I wholeheartedly believe in Aritzia. We have some TikTok content coming out on it. We're doing a quick video about the story of Aritzia. The company's going to explode. Again, not investment advice, just a company that I bought recently.
I mean, I'm personally pulled into like an hour and a half sessions every time I go with my fiance. So like maybe there's something there to that.
Oh, yep. Wall Street Bets is going to be talking about this episode now. Speaking of finance, can you tell us, what are you most excited about in the fintech industry and kind of what we're seeing for the future of that?
Yeah, I think the fintech industry is crazy. I think there's so much money coming into the industry. Companies like Revolut and Monzo are making mobile first. I think it's amazing. Companies like Klarna and Afterpay are helping with buy now, pay later. Really, where I think the future is going to go is aggregation and data. Having personalized investment tools for custom built for you, using your data, and where users actually opt in for this, not where companies are taking their data and doing these crazy things, but I opt in so that you can build a crazy amazing experience for me, similar like a TikTok algorithm. I think that's where finance is going, where you have such a curated experience and you're like, holy crap, your app is different than mine, his is different than mine, hers is different. It's because finance and apps should be that way, and that's, I think, with data we're going that way.
For sure. Yeah. Super personalized and right to the user, right? So that's great. Last few questions here, and these are going to be quick ones. Can you tell us your favorite entrepreneur?
I can give you the cliche Elon Musk, but I'm gonna say immigrants that are starting companies and businesses. people like my pops, people like, coming in from, hard struggles and coming in and saying, hey, we're going to do something big, something unique. So shout out to every single immigrant founder out there. Keep on hustling, keep on grinding, because you guys are inspiration to me.
Love it. And lastly, can you tell us your preference on this? Do you like pineapples on your pizza or not?
Pineapple on pizza, man. It works. I like it.
I'm a hard no on that one.
Love it. I love it. Amin's against it, so we like to kind of figure out what's going on with our users or our guests as well. So I'm for it. I love it, man.
Awesome.
Sweet.
But Taran, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I think you've shown a lot about your journey and kind of what's influenced you to get to where you are today, and that's definitely going to set kind of a path for success and for a lot of us who are looking to get into finance and looking to invest and kind of just learn about the markets. And so I think you and Flahmingo are doing a great thing there. Can you tell us where we can find you, where we can find Flahmingo, or anything else that you'd like to share here?
Yeah, I'll give a quick plug to the company. Search us up, flahmingo.com. That's flahmingo.com. Search us up, sign up for the wait list. On social, we're Ask Flahmingo, ASK Flahmingo with an H. And if you want to connect with me, LinkedIn's the best way. Taran Singh Kainth, reach out there, and I'm always happy to connect with other amazing entrepreneurs and individuals that just want to learn and chat.
For sure. We love it.
Sweet.
Thank you so much, man.